All right, kids. Today we're going to talk about. By the way, I'm still at my house. No big deal. We're going to be talking about carburation. We're going to start talking about that. That is, how do we get fuel into the engine? Specifically, we're going to talk about carburetors today. We're going to talk about them for several days, actually. So today, first introduction to them. Next week, we'll talk about them a little bit more. And then we'll be off for Christmas or Thanksgiving or whatever. And then we'll come back after Thanksgiving. We'll talk about them some more. And we'll do some demonstrations. Kind of see where we go from there. Okay? So the game is thus. Okay? Here, I'm going to draw an engine. I'm going to draw a flathead, I guess, engine. Just like you would see in a lawnmower that we're going to be working on someday soon. Well, I'm going to. You're going to watch, I guess. Whatever. Okay? Crank, of course, down here, whatever. Okay, and I got a valve here. It's closed right now. Whatever. And, of course, it's got its big spring. It's not connected, whatever. And we've got the cam and everything. I'm not going to draw the whole thing, for goodness sakes. Now, here's the game. Over here somewhere, you have basically a pipe. Okay? It's going to feed into this area underneath the valve. Nice. And so when the valve opens, it's going to get sucked into the piston. That'll be true for every single engine that we look at. Okay? Every single engine that we look at. Again, this is the flathead look to it. Mr. Groom, what if it was an overhead valve? All right, bro, I got you. I got you, dog. What? No, for real. Wonka, wonka, wonka. Look, my valve is closed thusly right now. And then there's going to be some kind of like a little cavern of a thing, like so. And it's going to be hooked into, basically a pipe. Same basic premise. And the gas and the air are going to get sucked into here. And then as soon as this valve opens, whoosh, down into the cylinder. Okay? That'll be true for all of them. What about overhead cam? Yes, for them too, friend, for them too. And this little pipe out here, this little idea of a pipe or a passageway, if you prefer, is what is called an intake manifold. Now, that's kind of a misnomer when it comes to a one-cylinder engine. Okay, on a multi-cylinder engine, it makes sense because, in essence, what's going to happen is thus: your air is going to come in. It's going to come in, and then here's the air coming in, and it's going to be branched out to, if you will, all of your different cylinders. Whatever, no big deal. Let's just say you've got 4 of them here, bro. And so this one, they would come. So the air would come in. Some would come down into this one. Some would go into this one, and some into this one, and some into this one. And it's called a manifold because that's what you call something that takes and divides everything out. You can have water manifolds for, like, for instance, on a fire hydrant kind of fire truck sort of deal. They have they have a manifold where you can plug a bunch of hoses into the same basic thing. In essence, a power strip that you plug into your computer and everything into is in essence an electrical manifold because it splits it out and it can go a bunch of different ways. We call this the intake manifold because, wait for it, that's how we get our air and our fuel into the engine. Nice. Nice. And then on the other side, typically, but not always, sometimes it's on the same side, wait for it, all of the exhaust comes out into the, what do you think it's called, friend? Yeah, that's right, the exhaust manifold. Now, no way. No way. I know, right? Whatever. It's kind of weird. I don't know. Whatever. So they all come out here and they join together. This is a classic design there. Yeah, all right. And out it goes. Okay. Here it comes from one into many. On this side, it comes from many back into one. And that'll be true for every engine that you ever look at. Okay. Will they always have 4? No, sometimes they have 3. It just depends. Okay. Again, how many they have to feed. So what we're going to notice is this. Where the air comes into the engine, the air comes into every gas engine through a throttle plate. Well, I'm just going to call it a throttle body. Now, it'll look different in every car. Okay, I will show you several different examples. Let's look up a few pictures, shall we? Okay. Mr. Groom, show me an example of one, would you please? Oh, I'd love to, thanks. Okay. Oh, let's do a throttle. Oh, maybe if you click on search, it'll actually work, you moron. Throttle, body, F-150 or something of this nature. What? Let's look at one that's actually on the engine. Okay. Mr. Groom, look at it. I'm trying to find it. It's like a nice place to see it on this one here. For instance, right here. All of the air is going to go through this little hole right here. But wait, Mr. Groom, there's a plate in front of it. I know, pal. So remember, what did we say controls the engine? What controls the engine is how much air gets into the engine. Wait, but this plate's in the road. That's right. So when you step on the gas pedal, okay, this little piece right here actually turns, and this plate in here will open up, and it will go on through. I'll show you several other examples and give you some close-ups when we get in the shop one of these days. It's kind of fun, kind of interesting to see how it all plays out. I get that, and don't worry, we're going to see a bunch of them. Okay. Now this is on fuel-injected cars. It looks like this. Okay. It goes into this big hole right here in the middle, and then you see these tubes right here. Oh, fiddle faddle, I say. That's not what I wanted at all. Judas Priest. Anyway, back on here, you can see these tubes. Well, the air comes in and comes out through these tubes, whoop, 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 into each of the cylinders. That is the intake manifold. Okay? And on a fuel-injected car, you will have ones that look like, some of them are bigger and wider. My Bronco's got duals, ones like this guy here, whatever. Why would you do that? Why wouldn't you have one small? Well, I want a lot of stuff to come in, thanks. I need some air to come in. So clearly, I don't want a little puny fella. I want a decent-sized one. Now, obviously, Mr. Groom, what if I put this ginormous one in the size of a garbage can? Is that too much air? Well, yeah, because you could have a big door, but only so much can get through the hallway, okay? It'd be kind of like, it'd be like the front of the school. You could put a ginormous door on it, but if the hallways of the school aren't any bigger, yeah, a lot of people get through the door, but then they can't get down the hallway any faster. So that same thing is true. You might get it in the intake, but it can't move through and get through the valves any better than it was before. In other words, there is a maximum to how big it can get. Now, we will also look at on a carburetor, because the same thing happens. What can't you spell, you moron? So those on the bottom of a carburetor, they also have these throttle plates. You see them right there. And they live on the bottom of a carburetor. This is a carburetor. Well, that's actually not a carburetor. That's an electronic fuel injector. Oh, I was trying to show you the bottom. Well, this is the bottom. Stop it. This right here is the bottom of a carburetor. Okay. I will just show you a demonstration of a carburetor. But suffice to say that every bit of air that gets into your engine to be burned, it passes through a situation like this. This one's got 4, Mr. Groom. How come? Yeah, we'll talk more about that later on. For right now, we're just going to go with the fact that every bit of air that we're going to burn comes into the engine through a throttle body. That's something I want you to really get your hands around. Mr. Groom, all these carburetors look different. This little fella here versus this ginormous beast versus this, ooh, say, that's pretty, versus this old grandpa versus, and so on and so on and so on. We will look at a variety of them. What we're going to do is, first of all, we're just going to look at as if we only had one piece. Okay, so the air that comes into the engine, all of it passes through a throttle body. Okay, that's a fact, whether it's on a fuel-injected engine or whether it's on a carbureted engine. It will always go through a throttle body. Now, a carburetor, check it out. It's a very easy thing. Mr. Green was going to draw it. Okay, now once again, when we talked about cams, what did cams do? Well, they had a lobe and they opened valves on everyone. Were they all exactly the same? No, they were a little different, but they all did the same thing. Okay, same thing with the same thing with the designs, whether it was a cam, with overhead cam or overhead valve, it's all the same, bro. The only difference is some of the ways that some of those things were put together is a little different, but the cam has a lobe. The cam still opens the valves. So when I draw this carburetor, this first one I draw, I'm going to draw it a certain way. I'm going to draw it this way because it's the one I find the easiest to draw. Okay, and then we'll kind of just go at it from there. Now, what Mr. Groom is going to do on this particular one, I think, I'm going to draw a bowl. Like a cereal bowl, Mr. Groom? Yes, kind of like a cereal bowl. This bowl on the bottom of the carburetor, on this particular design, pretty much every carburetor, there's a couple of weird examples in lawnmower engines that don't have bowls, but almost every carburetor that you will ever see, 99.9999999% of them will have a bowl. Will the bowl always be on the bottom of the carburetor? No, it won't always be on the bottom. It might be on the side, might be in front, might be in the back. I don't know. It just depends, okay? What will be in this bowl, Mr. Groom? Gas will be in the bowl. Okay? Well, why do we want gas in there? You'll find out in a jiffy, sir, ma'am. But here's the problem, friend. What ends up happening is inside of this carburetor, okay, we need to get gas in, but we need to be able to not get too much gas in. So we need a valve that opens and closes. And so what's going to happen is this. In every carburetor, and literally I mean every carburetor, you will have a float. And wait, does that just float on top of the gas? That's right, that's right. Well, what does it do? Well, I'm glad you asked. See, it's hooked with a little metal rod of a thing over to a pivot. You with me? A little pivot right there. And it just pivots on that, Mr. Grimm? That's right, that's right. And so what happens is this. There's a little valve placed right here, something like this, okay? And gas will come from a fuel line, and it'll go plugged right into here. This is our new fuel line. Fuel line coming from the tank, okay? And in here, there's going to be a little deal that's kind of shaped like so. And then there's a little piece that sits in here that's shaped exactly kind of like it. And this is what's referred to as the needle and seat. Okay? Sometimes they're drawn like the way I have it here. Okay? They're drawn so that as the float goes up, the seat, which is this bottom part here, the seat always looks kind of like this. And it's always attached to the float. And I'm sorry. Let me go. This is the needle, I should say. Did I say it was a seat? It's the needle. And it goes into the seat right here. And it fits tight, and then that is what shuts off the flow of the fuel. Okay? When this goes all the way in, when the float goes up, it comes in here like this, and it perfectly shuts off the fuel. Okay? That's how every single carburetor ever made always works. Take it to the bank. That's a fact, Jack. Okay? Now, some are drawn like I drew this one. Some are designed a little different in that instead of the pivot being on the far end, the pivot, in fact, is in the middle. The pivot is here, if you will. You see this? And so now over here, the needle now faces downward, you see, and the seat is down here like so, and the gas would burble in from the bottom. And so in other words, here would be your fuel line coming in this direction this time. And the idea is, it's just like in your bath, go take the lid off the back of the toilet. It's the exact same thing. In the back of the toilet, there is a float. It hangs down. It goes up here. It pivots right about here. There's a little ball valve in here. So as this goes up, it pivots like this, and it pushes that valve closed. That's when the toilet quits running. Okay, that is just how they always work. Okay, it's the same thing is going to be true in your carburetor. Always, 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 always. Okay. Now, interestingly enough, this bowl we have to keep full. It's like a little reservoir that we have of some gas that's always there. It's always ready to go. Always, always. Okay. Now, this bowl here, it's pretty neat kind of way of doing it. Now, in particular, in this, okay, I'm going to change my bowl just a little bit. I'm going to make it a little longer. If that's, I don't care if it's okay. I'm going to do it anyways. Okay, I'm just going to do it a little longer anyway. Now, why did I do that? Because I want to draw this in such a way. you can kind of see how this whole piece fits together, this next piece, okay? That's okay with you? Okay. So what's going to happen is this. Okay, we've got fuel coming in. We're going to fill our little float full of gas, our bowl full of gas. Isn't that exciting? Down here somewhere, there's a little tube kind of look like this. And then inside of it, there's a little itty bitty tube like so. A little itty bitty tube like so, Mr. Groom. That's right. And it just kind of sticks up here into the middle of what seemingly is no man's land right now. Okay? It's inside of this kind of a bigger tube, which is solid. This is kind of solid here. Kind of solid here. And then there's an opening. And you're like, what is that for? Is that where the gas is going to get out? Well, how's it going to get out? Friend, everything we've done so far this year, and it will continue to be, will be pressure driven. Okay? That is, in other words, this bowl will have an opening. I'm going to draw it somewhere. I was kind of draw it off to the side. There will be an opening to air. And what do I mean by that? Meaning that the pressure inside of the bowl is atmospheric pressure. It's atmospheric pressure. Just like when you are sitting down to drink out of your straw, like we talked about previously, there's your mouth. And we said, all right, what's the pressure on the top of the cup? It's atmospheric pressure. It's pushing down, pushing down, pushing down. But it stays at this level until you what? Until you reduce the pressure in your mouth. You reduce the pressure in your mouth, what happens? Okay? This forces the liquid up into your mouth through the straw. Same thing's going to happen here, friends. What's going to happen is this. You're like, how are we going to get the pressure to be lower up here? Glad you asked. Allow me to introduce our friend, and a friend that you will come to know and love soon. A guy by the name of Bernoulli. Okay? So this guy by the name of Bernoulli, he said way back in the day, oh, don't you go to sleep, you hippie. Faster moving air creates lower pressure. Interesting. So here's what's going to happen. Air is going to be flowing in thusly. I want to get in. No, I want to go. I want to go. Let me first. Me first. Out here, it's not moving as fast. It is always going to go through this narrow passageway. This narrow passageway is called a venturi. Okay? And this is what's called the Venturi effect. It's also the Bernoulli principle, but it's the Venturi effect in this particular case. Bernoulli is the guy who came up with it, named after, but it's also called the Venturi. This tube is called the Venturi. This tube right here is called the Venturi, where it necks down. This air is going to be moving faster, fast-moving air. Well, fast-moving air does what? Well, it creates a lower pressure. Wait, so it's lower pressure in here. That's right. So what's going to happen? The gas is going to get sucked up through this tube into the airstream. It has little pieces and little particles. What? You mean almost like old school perfume bottle and you squirted yourself? Mr. Groom, I don't know what you're talking about. I'm not old like you. Let me show you an example, friend. Let me help you out there. All right? Oops, what are you doing? Give it to me, you hippie. Let's go on the YouTubes. All right. All right. Perfume atomizer. There you go. Oh, let's give a little squirt practice bulb. Yes. Can we see one in motion? That's an antique one review. Well, whatever. Darn it. Well, piddle fiddle. Well, anyway, when you squirt perfume, you know it comes out in a big woof, a little psh, mist, right? Same principle is going to happen here. What we are doing is what we're calling it atomizing the fuel. The fuel does not have an I, you moron. Atomizing the fuel. Okay? We're going to be mixing it with air, and we're trying to get, in essence, wait, we mentioned this before, stoichiometric ratio. What does that mean, Mr. Groom? It is the perfect ratio of air to fuel. That's what we're trying to accomplish here. Okay? How would we change that? We change the size of that tube right there. Okay? We change the size of that opening. That opening is called a jet. Okay? In a lawnmower engine, you can't really change the size of a jet. It's not made to hot rod. You're like, hey, my dad's car, it's a 1970 Nova. By the way, I'm jealous. Okay. Yeah, and he's got a Holly, and we changed the jets on it, Mr. Green. We put bigger jets in. Wait a minute. Would bigger jets mean more fuel? That's right. If I had enough air to support that more fuel, what's it going to do? More power! Of course, that's the whole point, friends. That's the whole point. And so out this side is going to come air and fuel. And of course, this leads into, obviously, the cylinders over here somewhere. The entire principle of a carburetor always relies on this idea of a Venturi tube. Okay? I will show you a couple of examples in the real world. Now, right at the end of the Venturi, right over here, there's a little thing we like to refer to as the throttle. Okay? As that piston's going up and down, what's it doing? It's causing the suction, yes? It's pulling air. It's trying to pull air through. And we're like closing the door. We're saying, we're not going to let any more air in, bro. And so there's always going to be a little escapes around the edges of it. That's why your engine will idle. It'll just barely run, like it sits there, and like when you start your car in the morning, it idles. All right, you sit in a park at a stoplight, it's idling. You shut your mower down, you idle it down. It's just down to put. But this old school, back nowadays, you can't leave a motor running somewhere on a lawnmower. But that's the idea. Now, when you go foot to the floor, when your foot mashes down, this throttle plate opens up wide, and you can get a lot more air in past the throttle plate. Okay? That will always be true. Always, 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 always. Okay? Now, the way I have this drawn, the air moves from side to side on the carburetor. This is what's called a side draft carburetor. Okay? This is what lawnmowers use, predominantly. Okay? Old school cars use them. They're all right. They kind of hang on the side of an engine. Let's look at one, shall we? A Briggs and Stratton. Oh, I'm just going to look up a motor here. I'm just going to see if I can find me a picture of one. Whatevs. Sure, that's not helpful at all. I can't see them because they're all hiding, because these are all the new ones. Old. There you go. Let's go find an older one. Maybe we can see the actual carburetor on these a little more betterish. And of course, it's not going to be one that I actually want to look at. These are all stupid ones. Well, they're ones we'll actually look at, some of them, but I just wanted to try to find one. Well, that's one right there. What the Sam Hill is that mess? I just want to see the pictures. Oh, do I have to click on this? Probably. Oh, there it is. Can I zoom? I can zoom. What? Crap, that's terrible. That's a different kind of carburetor. I don't want to see that one. Okay, we will get into a whole bunch of different ones later on. Well, I'll just put carburetor. I don't want to. I know what's going to happen. If I put one of these, I'm going to get the kind that I don't want. But life goes on. All right. Okay. Well, there. That, my friends, is more or less what we're talking about right there. Okay. Now, again, here's your bowl down here on the bottom. Okay. Notice how this is a bigger opening, and then it narrows down. You can see it neck down. In there, my friends, that part in there is where the Venturi is. Okay. I'll see if I can. We will dissect one in class, and I will demonstrate it a ton. These are all different versions of the same kind of thing. They're all different designs. So I don't want you to get all weirded out by that. Well, there's 87,000 different designs. OMG, Mr. Groom. How am I supposed to remember? You just calm down, bro. Again, this is basically the design I drew just a minute ago. See this? You see the bowl right there? You see it? No big deal. There's your float. No biggie. It's round. You didn't draw it that way. Get over yourself. See right there, that little spot, that little hole right there, that pin right there goes in right there, and this is where the float hinges. Inside of right there is where the needle and seat lives. I will tear one of these apart for you, and we'll demonstrate them in the next day or two. I don't want to get too much into it today. This piece right here, this brass-looking piece, that is your throttle plate. Oh, I don't want to watch a freaking video of it. Judas Priest. Okay, sorry about that. I didn't mean to do that. Judas Priest. Now, we will see several other kinds of carburetors. Okay, the primary one that we'll see on cars will be set up a little different, in that the bowl will be like kind of on the back side of the carburetor, or on the front side, or the side, whatever. Again, throttle plates will be, the throttle blades will always be closest to the engine. Okay, and then what you will see is, oh, that's hot. That's right. Here is the Venturi, as promised. Okay, it's right here where it's neck down. Notice what's going to happen is in here you're going to have a straw, in essence, that sticks out. Well, it doesn't touch the bottom, stupid. But in essence, it sticks into here like so. Wait a minute. Is this the jet, Mr. Groom, right there? Yeah, in essence, that's the jet. Is it sitting in a puddle of fluid? Gas. Yeah. Wait, is there a float in here? Yep. Is that float connected to a needle and a seat? You know it, pal. Is there a fuel line? Yep. And so the difference here is the air comes down from the top on this guy and then goes into the engine. The engine's down here. That's true. That's always going to be true. This is what's referred to as a down draft carburetor. Okay, almost every single car engine that you will see that has a carburetor will have a downdraft carburetor. Okay, unless you're looking at old, and I mean old British cars or something. Old British cars and stuff would have side drafts frequently. Here's the game. Okay, the air is going to come in through the top. Mr. Groom, I can see how it narrows down, but it also has these little smaller holes. What are those? Oh yeah, those actually have a name too. That is also a come on. Oh, I hate when I do that to myself. Anyway, the Venturis inside, those are called the, wait for it. Sorry, I had to go away until I could think of it. It was pissing me off. Okay, the Venturi is the smaller hole down here. You see that? Where it necks down to a smaller hole. That's the Venturi. These are what are called annular boosters. They also speed the air up because obviously they're even smaller. Okay, and so it's just part of the process. Some of them look like that. Some of them look like, this guy. And we'll pull one of those up just for a good time. Wow, that's not helpful at all. Thank you. Can I see the top of one, please? Would that be okay? Oh, there. That's the top of one. Nice. These ones also have the annular boosters in there. Whatever. Let me show you an old school one. Mr. Groom, what about Holley 1940 carb? Well, that's like old school, Mr. Groom. Yeah, it is old school. Yeah, it's nice. Mr. Groom, it looks a lot smaller than the other ones. It is. It's a lot smaller. Is that because is this the bowl sits over here on the side? That's right. The bowl sits on the side. Is where the fuel line comes in. Nice. Does that mean the needle and seat has to be kind of right behind this? That's exactly right. Well done, ma'am, sir. Good job. All right. This little guy right here, you think, oh, that totally is where the fuel comes in. No, you're wrong. That actually is where it vents down into the bowl to let pressure into the bowl, atmospheric pressure. Okay. Actually, you can't really see it. This is a big, wide opening. By the way, this is not the throttle. We're going to talk more about this plate later. The throttle is always on the other side. This is where the air is coming in. Which, again, you don't know that yet, but when you get to this particular situation, air is coming in. The throttle is always on the side closest to the engine. What is this plate for? Well, again, we'll talk more about it later, bro. Just don't get excited. Now, in here, again, your float's going to sit in here, obviously. But down in there, it necks down, and you're going to see the Venturi hiding down in there. Okay, be nice if I could see one from above, but I can't, so I guess I'm not going to cry about it too much. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what to tell you. I guess this is a very similar carburetor. But again, looking down into there, you can see it necks down a little bit. Again, that is not the throttle plate. Those are not the throttle plates. This is just a bunch of different views, all the same thing. Okay, so we we'll probably leave it at that for now, although I will say there is one other style that we will see. So the kind that we will look at, these again are side drafts. We will see down drafts frequently on most cars. And then old school carburetors on old tractors and stuff, you'll see them sometimes. They're kind of bass backwards. Okay, that is, hey, here's the Venturi. It's where it neck down. That's right. Nice. There's a bowl somewhere. I'll draw it here, I guess. Bowl. Oh, look, it's got a little line that sticks into the Venturi. Oh, what? No way. Way. Nuh-uh. But look, the air is coming in this way this time. Shut up. Yeah, no, for real. And so here's your throttle right here. Throttle. That's when someone says to you back in the day, my grandpa or somebody used to say, I'll throttle you, boy. That's because they would choke you, if you will. They were just joking around. I'm going to choke you. I'm going to control how much air you're getting. No, okay? I'm going to throttle you. That's the game. That's what's happening here. In a car's engine, you are changing changing the throttle. You're changing how much air you're letting in. If you let more air in, obviously you can burn more fuel. What's that going to do to the engine? It's going to speed up. Okay? Throttle plates are connected. They're connected to your gas pedal. I'll put it that way, okay? To your accelerator pedal, okay? Sometimes they're connected with a wire or a rod. Sometimes they're connected with just electronics, okay? But they're connected to it. That's what opens and closes the throttle plate. Anyway, notice the air is coming up. This is an updraft carburetor. You don't really see these anymore, okay? That is because the draft is going up through the carburetor. Same principle, same principle. We see a ton of downdrafts. When you see carburetors on the cars, they're 99% of the time they're downdrafts. And then when we're talking about in class on lawnmowers and stuff, they're most of the time they're going to be side drafts. Does it make any difference? Not a bit. It's just a little different way of going about it. Again, it's all about the fact that you're taking air, it's getting necked down to a smaller area, to a smaller tube, that's speeding the air up. When the air speeds up, the pressure reduces. If you're ever concerned about why that works, do this. Here's a wing of an airplane, yes? As this wing is forced through the air, here comes these two friends, Bob and Jim. There they are. Now, when Bob and Jim get to the front of the wing, they have to go around, obviously. So Bob is going to go over the top. Whee! Jim is going to go scooting right along the bottom. Now, who's got farther to go? Bob, you see, the top one, has further to go. Jim does not have to go as far. Therefore, but they meet at the same time at the back of the wing. Wait a minute. That means Bob had to be going faster. That's right, friends. That's right. Which means there's lower pressure under the wing. Wait a minute. If there's lower pressure under the wing and higher pressure under the wing, what does that do? It causes a force known as lift. And this is why, friends, when you're flying your airplane, you stay in the freaking air. Okay? It's Bernoulli's principle. That is faster moving air. We're talking about in terms of air right now. Faster moving air has lower pressure than slower moving air. Okay? That's the big takeaway. Okay? That's kind of where I want to leave it. You know, if we were in class today, I'd probably ask you some more questions and stuff and this and that. And I apologize. I have to be at a meeting this morning. Don't sweat it. This is kind of the introductory lesson. You know, if you were in class today, I'd probably, hey, look at this carburetor. I'd hold a carburetor in front of the camera, and you're like, oh, that's cool, Mr. Groom. And this whole thing would last like 45, 50 minutes today. You know how I am. I start yabbering, and oh, here's another one. Check that out. All right. I will do that next week again. Next week you'll get to see me tear apart a bunch of carburetors and mess around with them. In fact, I have one that needs to be rebuilt. So next week in class, during the class time, I will probably, for your class, record it and then show it to the other classes probably because, I don't know. I'll record the whole thing probably and I'll just tune in different parts of the build with each class. Maybe that's what I'll do. I don't know, something like that. So that you can see how it's torn apart and then how it works and kind of how it goes. So at some point we will be watching that as well. Actually, I may film that one. I might just tear apart a little carburetor during the class periods and then I'll rebuild the other one for a video. I haven't decided yet. Okay. Anyway, that's the big takeaway. Higher speed air, lower pressure. That's huge. It's That's Bernoulli's principle. In the carburetor, we call it the Venturi effect. Okay. There will always be a little tube that meters how much gas in. That little tube's called the jet. That's just what it is. That's what it's called. There will always be a float. That float will always be attached to a thing called the needle. That needle will go in and out of a seat. When it's in the seat, it shuts the fuel flow off. When the float drops, the needle falls out of the seat and more fuel comes into the bowl. It will always be true. The throttle determines how much air gets into an engine. That's always true. And the throttle plates will always be on the side closest to the engine on the carburetor. Okay, you're not sure which side of the carburetor goes toward the engine, or you're not sure which side's the throttle. Which side is closest to the engine? That plate, it will be the throttle plate. We'll talk about the other ones called next week. All right. Have a good evening. Have a good day, I guess. All right.